Black metal lesson number 47. Today I'm going to give you some tips on your tremolo picking, because I've had a few questions on my socials and everything on tremolo picking and some picking stuff, so I thought I'd answer them in a video. I do go in this more extensively and with a progression plan in my course Black Metal Beginnings, which is available in the description. So the first thing to keep in mind is, how are you holding your pick? Because if you're holding your pick with a hand that's like too clenched, sometimes that might cause a bit of tension here in your wrist. Also, another thing to consider is how deep you're holding the pick, because if you hold it at the edge like this, the pick is just going to fly out. Really, what you want is just the tip showing, just a tiny bit, so it allows you to build a bit more control in the picking and it doesn't move around so much. I'm using a Tortex Sharp 1.35. It's the same one that Niall used to use. I know Carl Sanders is using a different pick now, and these are very, very unforgiving, so it forces you to pick properly and palm mute properly. And when you hold the pick, it should really only be with 2 fingers. Instead of like 3 fingers like this, it should really only be 2 fingers, thumb and index finger. The second tip is, how deep are you picking into the strings? Because if you're picking too aggressively, or the pick goes too far into the string, it's going to be harder to use the rebound of the string to get to the next stroke. Because if you just strum with just the tip of your pick, you're naturally going to get less resistance from the string. So when you're playing like, I'm just gently brushing the surface with the pick. And I pick quite hard, but when I tremolo pick, I'm letting the pick do the work because it's quite thick at 1.35. And it's quite stiff, so I only need to just keep the grip nice and smooth and steady, and then I can just relax across all the strings and just keep my picking as it is. Because if I now start to put my pick deeper into the string, so it's getting closer to the guitar body, it becomes almost impossible, and I'm already feeling some weird resistance and force in my wrist. So it's just something to be very, very careful of, how you hold your pick and how deep you're picking. And kind of tied to that is the power and how hard you should hold your pick, because if you're really like crushing the pick in your fingers like you're trying to break a walnut in your hand or something, then it's never ever going to work. You need to hold the pick in such a way that it stays exactly where it is, and you have quite a relaxed grip. Because if you hold the pick too hard, you're going to get a very, very same issue as picking too deep. You know, the actual tonality of the string will change, because you'll be picking so hard and so aggressively that the note becomes slightly sharper and you kind of sound out of tune. So you really just want to focus on trying to bring out the natural sound from the string. Another point to think about is, how are you counting the rhythms in your hand? Because when you're playing the super fast stuff, you need to keep count with your playing. And really, you're going to have to do that in your wrist. So if you're going, you're going to have to know where the beat is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to have to be like this. So you've got to count every 4 picks if you're playing in 16th notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've just got to be very, very careful with the counting in your picking. And also something to consider is the placement of the downstrokes and the upstrokes. Because if you're playing 16th notes, it's just going to be continuously down up. And if you're playing in triplets, it's going to be down, up, down, then up, down, up. And if you're playing groups of 6, continuously down picking and upstrokes. If you're playing eighth notes, it's going to be downstroke, then an upstroke. And if you're playing an eighth note, you should really have a downstroke on the beat and an upstrum off the beat. So you can count eighth notes as coffees or 1 and 2 ands. So on the numbers, it's 1, and on the ands, it's an upstroke. An exercise you can do is only strum the up 1, like that, and then only strum on the downbeats. And one thing that I see that's quite common is that you can have very good down picks, but then someone could have weak upstrokes. So your upstrokes need to be almost as tight as your downstrokes. And that can really have an effect on the way your riff sounds, because you can downpick everything. Or you can play those accented chords with the upstroke. So it's very, very important to practice your upstrokes and stop ignoring them. So upstrokes is another important one, and most critically, and you should be doing this anyway, is picking from the wrist. If you're picking from the arm, you're going to cause damage here, you're going to cause damage here, down this joint, possibly here as well, possibly there, and at the back of your shoulder. And in very, very rare circumstances, you could even get pains somewhere here if you're really just using terrible technique. So that's the important thing, is to really pick from the wrist. You can use your ring finger to hook on the high E, or your little finger to hook on the high E. You could even hook on the pickup as well. I've also seen some people hook on the bridge. If you've got a tunematic bridge with the Floyd Rose, it's going to be a bit more problematic. And I never like tremolo pick with my wrist on the guitar body or resting my hand on the bridge, purely because I like using Floyd Roses, and if I place my hand on the bridge, I'm just sharpening the notes. It's going to sound terrible, and I don't like that friction that I feel in my wrist here. So that's why I keep it semi-floating. I've got my little finger on the high E as an anchor. I've got my forearm resting on this kind of part of the body. The best thing about these Razorbacks is this beveling. It's just the right size and the right angle for my forearm to stay really relaxed. So whenever I play this guitar, it's always... I really should try and make your tremolo picking as effortless as possible. So yeah, it should feel smooth and over time easy, but it's a skill that has to be learned. You're never going to get this overnight. You could only just go at the pace that works best for you. Also, playing a 7-string will force you to use better muting techniques with your left and right hand as well. So that's another top tip as well. But yeah, thank you for watching.